Okay, cool. Thank you all so much for coming to this. We'll get started with some intros. The goal of this session for today was just to one, to just share a little more insight on how it works with both submitting a workshop application for Learn WordPress, as well as what the team who's reviewing them looks for in terms of when an application is approved, what the expectations are, and how that's very much derived from the community team's approach towards vetting other related applications for different programs, like the word just left my brain, like WordCamps and the Meetup program and things like that. So we'll be referring to a lot of that today, and then we'll go through a sample application as well. And also I see Pooja is joining, so I'm just gonna let her. Hi Pooja. Just so you know, we're recording this, as long as that's okay with you too. And yes, just to start with some intros, my name is Erica. I am based in the US, in New Jersey, near New York, and I am a sponsored contributor, primarily to the polyglots and community teams and training as well, mostly through Learn WordPress, and just doing the little bit that I can there. And I will pass my mic to Angela then as well, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Angela, and like Erica, I'm also a sponsored contributor, and I spend the vast majority of my time on the community team. And I'm just going to say I'm really excited that we're doing this community training collaboration today. Any chance to share our knowledge with each other is, I think, a big win. So I'm really excited about it. And I'll pass it over to Hari.
Thank you, Angela, and hello, everybody. My name is Hari Shankar, and I'm like Angela and Erica. I'm also a sponsored contributor, working mostly on the community team. I've also contributed a bit to Learn WordPress, and like y'all, I'm pretty excited to be here. And again, knowledge sharing is one of the most important things that we do, and I'm very excited to have you all in this call and to share everything that we know about vetting Learn WordPress workshops. Back to you, Angela and Erica.
Can we also do a round of introductions of everybody here? Because I think it would be great to introduce everyone.
Yes.
I'm just going to pick on you in the order of my screen. Afshana, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Afsana. I'm from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I'm CMO of WP Developer. It's a WordPress product company. I'm also a co-organizer for WordCamp Dhaka, and I'm also global community deputy for Make WordPress. But I joined last year, and I am basically painting Meetup application recently. So I would love to learn more about this painting process for training.
Cool. Micah, I'm going to pick on you next.
All right. Yeah, I'm Micah. I'm based out of the US, near Atlanta, not too far out of Atlanta. I work at Bluehost, sponsored contributor, kind of work somewhat internally as well as percentage of time on contributions. And I've always been interested in WordPress training, and I'm glad to get involved here. So.
Thanks, Micah. And Courtney, the kids are quiet.
Yeah, hi there. I'm Courtney Robertson. I am new to being one of the GoDaddy Pro field marketing team members. I've been a training team co-rep for a number of years, currently doing that with Hawa. My children are awake and the nanny gets here in about half an hour. So I'm going to mute out for now, but hi from the training team. I'm really excited that we're doing.
Thanks, Courtney. Okay, moved around a little bit. Eric, do you mind introducing yourself?
Okay, hello, I'm Eric. I'm from Taipei, Taiwan. And sorry about the noise before. I was having quality time with my roommate. And yeah, and yeah, I'm excited to learn more about Learn WordPress. Yes, nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here. And Pooja?
Hello everyone, I am Pooja Direshri from India and I am working at WP Vibes and I am regular contributor at training team and also a meetup organizer at WordPress HMA team. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hala?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, bud.
Hey, bud.
You're just doing a round of introductions. And Hala, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Hawa. I'm one of the training team reps, and I work for myself, so I guess I sponsor myself. And yeah, just I'm really excited for this collaboration and looking forward to see what we're going to go through.
Awesome. April, I saw that you joined us. Do you mind introducing yourself real fast?
I am April Weir. I run a little WordPress agency north of Atlanta and run the Woodstock WordPress meetup. And I'm looking to find out how to be more involved in community at a higher level and learn as much as I can.
Great. Well, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
And Bud, I'm glad you could join us today. Do you mind introducing yourself for us?
Yeah, I'm Bud Mans. I'm owner of Mans Web Designs in Northwest Ohio. And I've been semi-involved, trying to keep involved, but seems like, life keeps happening, but do what I can. April, I just see that you just joined our Slack channel. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of a newbie on Slack. I've been avoiding it for a long time, but I finally caved.
Embrace it.
Well, I think, yeah, I'm really glad that everyone could be here. Erica, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're gonna dive into overview of what the deputy program is and what vetting looks like on the community team. Is that right?
That's right.
Cool. All right. Well, I get to share with all of you one of my favorite parts of the community team, and that's the deputy program. I think the community team is probably most well known for all of the events that we put on. So WordCamps and meetups, Do Action events, open source 101. But there's also a lot of work in the background that goes along with that. And that's largely helping organizers do what they do. And to help us do that, because our program is global and so big, we really rely on deputies to help spread the word on best practices and to help us maintain all of that work as well. So community deputies themselves are people who have experience organizing events. That's usually both meetups and WordCamps. But really, when we bring on deputies, we're looking for that experience so that they have that lived experience that they can use to help others in different places around the world. We do ask all deputies to go through some extra training around open source community building practices and how we communicate. And we also do ask them to sign an agreement, the deputy agreement, because they do get access to some things that most people don't see. So that's going to be the application and some personal information there. And so we do take privacy very seriously, and we ask all deputies to respect that. So I'm not sure if that's a practice that you want to bring onto the training team, but that's definitely something to consider. And we'd be happy to share what that agreement looks like with you as well. Yeah, so community deputies really focus on 3 primary areas. So that's tackling an ongoing regular list of tasks, We have a bunch of queues that need to be maintained, and so deputies are invited to just go through those and like vet those meetup applications, vet those WordCamp applications, help us respond to our Help Scout queues. But they also do a lot of training and guiding and mentoring of WordPress communities and organizers. So if a local meetup community has a question around how to expand their organizing team, our deputies are like prepared to help answer that question and base it on, their personal experience and all the experience that they get as a deputy. And then we also invite all deputies to help us advise on the direction and future of the community team. Our work changes pretty quickly, especially in this last year as we've moved to online events, and now we're talking about how to bring back in-person events. So having deputies around the world to inform how those decisions best serve the community is a really important feedback loop for us. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the deputy program. I'm going to pause there because I just threw a whole bunch of information at you, and I see all these great links popping up in the chat. Any questions? I'm going to take that as a no.
I just wanted to comment too. Sean, I see you're new too. I didn't mean to exclude you.
Angela, I'd like, could you do a bit of a clarification, please? Like, who can become deputies? If you can explain that, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. So deputies are people who have experience with organizing events themselves. So organizing meetups, organizing WordCamps, and we do usually look for at least a few years of experience before inviting them to join as a deputy. And that's because our barrier to becoming a meetup organizer and even a WordCamp organizer are fairly low, and those are still visible leadership positions. At least I would consider them leadership positions in the community. And I think it's really excellent that we have those low barriers to entry, but having people who have that experience and requiring that of them, I think elevates our deputy program and better serves the community as well. And we'll get into this a little more around what we vet for when we vet for meetup organizers and WordCamp organizers. But we do have some other base expectations of deputies as well, including following the trademark and following the GPL guidelines as well, the license there. Other things that we also look for are they in good standing with the community? So have they said something inappropriate in their past? If so, we'll probably be a little more cautious about whether or not we invite them as a deputy, because they are representing WordPress. They're representing the community team. And because of that, we want to make sure that they are representing us well in a way that aligns with our expectations of people who represent WordPress.
Thank you, Angela. That was an excellent explanation. Thank you.
All right. I think let's get into vetting a little bit. And I know Hari will go over an actual example of vetting a workshop application with you, but I'm going to grab this list here, or this page here. So this is a handbook page of what we look for when we review applications. And in this case, it's specific to the community team. And this is what we look for when we vet a new application for a meetup group organizer or a WordCamp application. They do have some slight differences we expect that WordCamp applications come from somebody who has some meetup organizing experience. Otherwise, we'll ask them to go for that. So I think the easiest place for us to go to is if we were vetting a new meetup organizer. One thing that's cool is that they don't need to have any organizing experience previously. All we're really looking for is that they are enthusiastic about bringing people interested in WordPress together. And then we help them grow as an organizer. So on that review checklist, you'll see a couple of things like what their online presence looks like. So we will go to their social media profiles and just kind of scroll through and look for anything that kind of is a flag to you, whether that's like a cautious flag or an outright, oh no, this is not a, they are saying something really rude online to other people and we're nervous about bringing them in as somebody who represents WordPress. And that's, you know, the big ones typically are Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and yeah. Sometimes when we see something and we're not really sure if it's like seems kind of on edge, we're not really sure, we do bring it to the other deputies and get feedback from everybody else. And this is where having a private channel for us is really helpful, because that's not something that we want to put in public channels as we're vetting an application. And so that's also part of why we have the deputy agreement as well, because we don't really want deputies to go up and talk about this publicly of like, hey, I was vetting this person and they said something real weird online. So yeah. We also check for their .org profile. Even if it's brand new, that's okay. If somebody is brand new, what that tells me is that maybe they don't know too much about how the WordPress community works, in which case I'll definitely want to invite them to do some organizer training. If they have like a bunch of badges, you can see they've been recently really active in different P2s. That would probably tell me that, you know, they've got a good sense of how this community communicates with each other. In which case, I would really just want to focus my training on how to organize a meetup, and less about like how the community communicates with each other. Yeah, we look for personal site, for business site, and those are really for similar to social media. Like, are they saying anything inappropriate on their personal site? For business sites, it's largely any trademark violations. That link there has our trademark policy. And with the trademark policy and with GPL, like 9 times out of 10, it's just something that they didn't know about, in which case we help them understand how to follow the trademark policy, how to make their product GPL compliant. So it's not a outright no if somebody isn't following the trademark or GPL. It's more of an education process for us. And sometimes, rarely, if somebody is like unwilling to follow GPL in particular, we just say, you know, that's it's unfortunate. We wanted to bring you on as an organizer, but if you can't follow the GPL, then you can't hold an official role. And that for the community team is organizer, speaker, sponsor, or volunteer as well, because those are the positions that represent WordPress for us. The link on that GPL in that checklist goes to the 100% GPL vetting checklist. But one thing that I find really useful is this primer on GPL and why we, I see Hari's just linked it already, so ignore, you got a double link there. But the reason that the GPL is so important for us, and I think something that you're also looking for when you learn WordPress workshops, is because the GPL is what allows us to do what we're doing here today. And so if somebody is taking on a visible role in WordPress, we expect them to champion that GPL as well. And yes, the graphics, I love good stick figure graphics. Any questions so far? Pause there. And sometimes it's really confusing vetting for GPL and for trademarks. And again, like that's when I go back to that deputy group and say, help, what do you all think? And we can figure it out together. And then, yeah, so specific to the community team, sometimes somebody already has a meetup.com group, in which case we check for activity there. And so I'm not going to go into that too much because that's not as relevant, I think, to the Learn WordPress workshop vetting. Yeah, sometimes we'll take a look at maybe their GitHub or YouTube. That might be more relevant to workshop vetting because maybe they'll have some activity so you can see like, do they have that knowledge base? What's their presence look like when they're on camera, something like that.
I have a question about meetups and stuff. Here in Northwest Ohio, now I know that there's a Northeast Ohio meetup group, but for like myself, how do I know if I have an opportunity to become a meetup organizer?
Excellent question. I say that anybody who has the interest and meets those baseline expectations of organizer around trademark and GPL, we'd love to have you as an organizer. So the easiest way, if there already is an existing meetup in your area, is to just go connect with those meetup organizers and say, hey, I want to help out with your group. What can I do to help? And they can bring you on board. Any meetup organizer is able to adjust settings for that group, including adding new organizers. And meetups with larger organizing teams, I find tend to be more successful overall, by successful, I mean like they regularly host events, they have more diverse events as far as like topics, and also if they are, I do hope that they build diverse organizing teams as well. That tends to attract a larger group of people as well. That's more representative of WordPress. And if there's no group in your area, you're definitely welcome to apply to start one.
I guess that, we have, I think there's some up in Michigan too. I'm not fully aware of all those. Because we had a day with WCEU and with the one here in Ohio. I guess how does it work if okay, so here's Budman's in Defiance, Ohio, and he's going to start up a meetup group, and I'm just speaking hypothetically. How do I know I'm going to get any kind of involvement? I mean, how does that all work? I mean, and I'm sorry if this is not related really on this topic that you're talking about, but these are just questions I've got in the back of my mind.
Yeah, those are great questions. You know what, it sounds like you might have a bunch of questions around starting your group, and I'd love to answer all of them. Those are also questions that meetup organizers regularly have. So if you want to drop those in the community, would you feel comfortable dropping them in the community team channel? in which case you'll get a bunch of deputies helping you out. And that's a great
Okay.
example of what
Yep.
community deputies do. We help answer
Yeah.
those questions.
Well, and not just community deputies, community. I mean,
Mhm.
I know, and well, I digress. How this is not related to the topic, so I'll just be quiet.
No, those are great questions. I'm glad you're asking them. And yeah, we will get you those answers. I'm really excited that you're interested in organizing.
Well, my purpose in business and in life really is to help others. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to not to need help and not have any resource for it. And so I'm trying to be that for whoever else I can affect. That's my goal.
That's a great goal. Cool. Any other questions about vetting or anything else before we move on here? All right.
You
Yeah,
said
and
to put
then,
that I'm sorry, you said to put that in the community team chat or in
sorry,
training?
the community events.
Oh, community events. Okay, thank you.
And so, yeah, if anybody has questions about that, community events is where we have like all organizers, all deputies, and then community team is largely where the deputies hang out, although anybody can watch us do our work. And that's where we host our meetings as well. But community events, you'll also probably get a lot of other organizers helping you out as well. All right. Yeah, so some additional background checks that we do. Whenever we have somebody applying to a new meetup, we also do check our Help Scout queues as well, just to see if they've had any other involvement. And that's largely it. Erica, Hari, and Eric, Shana, I know you've done some vetting work. Did I miss anything there? Anything else that you want to add based off of your experience?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what if you haven't done any work on the Help Scout, but you've been very involved in person? Is that a detriment? Because that would be my situation.
No, and that's great. We do often have people who have like volunteered or at a WordCamp and they want to start their own meetup locally, or they've been involved in a contributor day. Usually we see that in the application itself. It'll say that there's an area of like, how have you been involved in the past, or anything else we should know about you, and that's where we see that. And that information is also really helpful for people who are vetting the application to understand like, hey, okay, you've been a part of the community, you've been to a WordCamp, you see what it's all about. That's helpful information.
And also in my profile for my contributions, like there's not all my contributions are there. What would the avenue be for me to like rectify that?
Yeah, let me grab, you're talking about the badges?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so different teams have different ways of assigning badges. So there is a badges. So Kari, actually, you're super fast at this. Can I trouble you to find that page where it shows like how all the different badges and how to get those?
Cool. Yeah, I can fix that in a moment. Thank
you. Yeah, some of them are automatically awarded if you've like done some action. I think like polyglots you've translated a string, you get the polyglots badge. Yes, that is the link. Thank you so much, Hari. And then others, like for the community contributor badge, it's awarded if you've become a deputy or a mentor. And so we do manually award the badge sometimes. So it depends on the team.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Thanks. Any other questions? I think this is a good time to turn it over to Erica on an overview of workshops on Learn WordPress.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you, Angela. Yeah, so up next, we'll have Hari kind of going through what his vetting process looks like for actually an application from Angela. So you'll be able to see that a little bit more tangibly, what that looks like. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to back up and explain a little more context for what workshops are, where these applications come from, why people are submitting applications, and all of that. So if you don't know, learn.wordpress.org in its current form, where we have a mixture of courses, workshops, and lesson plans, that format launched less than a year ago. So a lot of this is still really new, which means there's a lot of pieces that are new for contributors. There's a lot of pieces that are changing, and it's also a great way to just get involved too, because you can really have an impact on its future and what it's going to look like. And all of the content on Learn is obviously, it comes from contributors. And when we talk about workshops, well, there's, I'd say, essentially two main types of content on Learn. We have lesson plans, which are geared more towards folks who are educating others, and which the training team has built out over years in terms of building up a library of different lessons that people can use to teach other people about WordPress. And some of them have informed our workshops too. Workshops being videos on Learn WordPress that are more self-guided educational materials. So for someone who wants to learn more about using WordPress and they come to learn.wordpress.org, the workshop is geared towards kind of giving them information so they can get started on using that information. And those workshops touch on a variety of topics, from getting started with WordPress, how to blog, how to use a block editor, to things that are a little bit more geared towards being involved in the community, such as how to get involved in the community, tips on, we have the diverse speaker workshop series is on there as well, which is a really great resource. But essentially, when we refer to a workshop, we're referring to one of the video workshops on the site where someone is presenting the information and is set up as a self-guided educational resource. And for the workshops, there is so everyone who has a workshop on that site has filled out the workshop presenter application. And when you're on Learn WordPress, there's a link to that at the very bottom of the site. But this link here is what that application looks like. And this is essentially used as all of the information that we need to gather when reviewing and vetting a workshop. And so you can see it includes a lot of that information that Angela was already talking about in terms of the person's WordPress.org profile. Whoever's applying can also submit some of their online social media or personal website and things like that, all of which is information that can be used to help vet them as a speaker, to make sure that if this person's presenting a workshop on Learn WordPress, they're still meeting those expectations that exist within the community in terms of things like trademark, GPL, and just generally acting in a way that promotes WordPress values. And then below that, we have the workshop details. And this is just where we get essentially the outline of what the workshop is going to cover. I think one of the challenges with video workshops is that it's the video editing is one of the more time-consuming pieces. So just having some information about what the person's expecting to include, that also sometimes helps with the conversation. Some workshops that we have are part of a series, and we have some workshops that are really long. I have a couple of those, and we have some that are much shorter, and those can be broken up into a series of videos, which I think is a really nice approach. But just getting this information that you see here about the workshop description, what the learning objectives are, some idea of comprehension questions, that just helps with vetting the content. And you'll see from time to time, someone might jump into the training team channel in Slack and might ask about some of these things like learning objectives, where the training team's experience can be really valuable for evaluating what are your thoughts on the structure and content that this person is proposing for their workshop? And that's essentially it. And once someone submits this workshop, they can submit it as an individual workshop, like I said, or it could turn into a series depending on the situation. This is just the main way for someone to propose their idea right now. And then once all of this information is submitted, it goes into the Learn WordPress site, which Hari will show in a second. And it comes in as needs vetting. So whoever's looking at these workshops knows that no one has looked at this one yet. They can take a look at what's been proposed, take a look at the person who would like to present, and then either follow up with questions or move forward. But once someone has a workshop that is approved after it's been vetted, essentially the next step, of course, is just to record the workshop, just record and edit the workshop, and then submit that to WordPress TV before it's live on Learn WordPress. But that's just my general overview of what workshops are in terms of where they fit into all of the content on Learn WordPress, and where those applications actually come from. So before I hand it over to Hari to actually show you what that looks like hands-on, I will also pause to see if you have any questions about that as well. I'm going to take that. Oh, I see, Micah, you unmuted.
Oh, yeah. I had a quick question. As far as I see the application here, is there some document somewhere that outlines exactly what the workflow is for publishing a workshop?
We do. Let me grab it. We do have a handbook for Learn WordPress that is it's still in progress, but there are, let me see if I can grab, you can find the whole handbook here. This might be the most helpful resource to share to start. And then there is some information too on recording workshops, which generally covers what to expect when submitting it. And we also have a little bit of information in there as well. I believe under vetting workshops, there's a separate page that I think covers a lot of it. We borrowed a lot of the documentation that existed in some of the community team handbooks to inform that. But that's where some of that exists. Though that said, if you take a look and you feel like anything is missing, there's still a lot of opportunity to update that and add more. So if you notice that, feedback's welcome. If you just drop a note in the training channel or anything like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Erica, I'm going to drop a link for the lesson plan flow as well.
Thank you.
No, whoops, not that one. Let me that was a link to another review that came in. Let me grab this one. So the idea being that for lesson plans, we'd like to be in feature parity as much as possible with some of the workshops that are going out. And so there's a workflow process for that too. And it's just a goal that the training team is sort of working towards. But that's the overview as well on the lesson plan workflow.
Thank you, Courtney. All right. Well, thank you for that. And Hari, I'm just going to, I'm a little worried that if I make you host, it might affect the recording. So I'm just going to update your ability to share your screen, and then you can take over if that sounds good.
Totally works for me.
Cool. Okay, I think you should see it now, but let me know if you don't.
Awesome. Let me give it a try. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. Yes, it looks like I can share my screen. Awesome. So let me take a moment. I hope you all can see my screen. Okay, great. So folks, Angela and Erica, they did a great job of explaining what the deputy program is and how Learn WordPress looks like, Learn WordPress workshops look like. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you all a quick overview of how this works in real life. So what you can see is the admin page of the Learn WordPress site. And as you can see, so there's a workshop section, which lists all the application. There's a few sections over here: published, draft, approve a video, etc. So when we vet workshops, we're going to need to look at the needs vetting section. So that's on the right over here. So you can see a few applications here. So these are the applications that need to be vetted. So typically, when you start vetting a workshop, you're going to start from the bottom. So currently, not everybody in the training team are vetting these workshops. So currently, the community team, we are the ones that are working in, and the purpose of this workshop is to make sure that training team members can also learn about this. So for the purpose of this session, Angela has submitted a workshop on WordPress incident response training. So we're gonna go through that workshop to see how the vetting process actually works, so that you all get an idea about what we actually discussed works in real life. Okay, so again, I'll repeat. So we go to the needs vetting section. We go to workshops on the Learn WordPress site backend. So there's all workshops. You go to the needs vetting section and you start from the bottom. So the incident response training. So this is not always arranged in order. So it might make sense to arrange as per order. So I can see that the incident response training team, incident response team training is the latest one. So typically that's not what we do. We order in the ascending order and we take the oldest one. But for the sake of this session, I'm going to start with this. So let's vet the WordPress incident response team training workshop. So this is actually not a workshop. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so I actually have it open in a separate screen. So this is how it looks. So let me first walk you through all the sections in the screen so that you have an idea about how this works.
Hari,
so this is a hello.
Hari,
go ahead.
Just a little slower, please.
Sorry, I get that a lot. I mean, I tend to talk really fast, so sorry about that. I'll try to go a lot slower. Sorry about that, and thank you for the heads up.
Yep, thank you.
Cool. All right. So as I was saying, so this is the individual workshop page, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through the individual sections in this page to see how the vetting process actually works. So earlier, Erica showed the application. Erica and Angela, they explained about the application section, and there's a Learn WordPress application page. So all the information that you submit when you submit a workshop application, that gets recorded in this page. So again, going back. So this is the application that we opened, incident response training. So you will find that all the information is recorded underneath. So you can find the original application in this page. So this is the original application, and we will be using this for vetting. Before we get to that, let me quickly share some parts of this particular screen, which might be helpful for you. So you will find that this workshop has an extended post status. It's a custom post status. It's a needs vetting. So after we are done with vetting, we move this to a particular status as required, right? So we will find the original application underneath, as I mentioned earlier, and we will use this for vetting. Some other features on this site are, this is the duration of the workshop, the language of the workshop, the captions, the link quiz, and the WordPress.tv URL. You need not worry about all of these things because these will be added later once the workshop is published. Currently, we're just going to focus on this original application section. So, but there comes the question: where do we add this vetting? Where do we add the vetting notes? Now, we don't have a foolproof way to do that. So, if the deputies in this call, you vetted workshops, you already know how this works. There's a WordCamp Central tracker. When somebody applies for a workshop, there's a custom post type. So this is also something like this. This is a custom post type. So there's a field. There's a vetting field where we add the information. This feature is still being built on to Learn WordPress. We don't have that yet. So once that is done, you will see a field, something like this, WordPress.tv URL. So that will be where you'll be adding vetting notes. So for the sake of this session, what I'm going to do is I've created an example spreadsheet. So this is where we'll be vetting the workshop. So we've been using a spreadsheet like this. I'm not sharing that actual spreadsheet because it contains some sensitive data. So for the sake of this workshop, I'm going to be using this example sheet to vet the workshop. Okay, so let's start vetting. Again, so let me quickly go through the features once again for your. So this section contains all the information about the workshop. This is the title of the workshop. So when you submit a workshop, you're asked for a few questions. You're asked for the learning outcomes. You're asked to share some comprehension questions. And there's a transcript session. You need not submit that right away. This is for later. So let's first go through what is the name of the workshop. Before that, let me just copy over the URL to the spreadsheet. I'm going to paste it over here. So this is an example spreadsheet. I'm just using this for the sake of this workshop. In future, I mean, when the training team takes over, hopefully we'll have a field like this. like this, where we'll be adding vetting notes. But for the sake of this workshop, I'm going to use this. And I'm going to copy over the name of the workshop, which is the WordPress Incident Response Team Training. I'm going to copy it over here. And the speaker, they asked for a speaker name. The speaker name is Angela Jin. And the topic of the workshop. So it's essentially what this workshop is on. So this is an incident training workshop for the community team. So I'm just going to add the topic. The topic is community. What is the language of the workshop? It's straightforward. It's in English. So I'm going to copy it over there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to read through this. So this section is fairly straightforward. Again, this is a workshop on how to handle incident reports for the community team. Now, this workshop has comprehension questions. Those are also required. So we need to check whether the applicant has entered both the learning outcomes and the comprehension questions. So in this workshop, we can see both. Next, we move towards the vetting. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the original application section. This is the information that we use to vet. So let's first take a look at this. So I've copied, Angela earlier shared some notes. Before that, let me share this spreadsheet link for you so that you can take a look at it. So here you go. This is a link to the spreadsheet. I believe it's open, so you can all take a look at it if you want to. So since this is an example, I think that's not a problem. So yeah, right. So let's look at the features individually. Again, we need to check. Again, if you want to know what exactly to vet, there's the community deputy checklist. I've just copied this over here. So I'm going to use each of this. So let's look at the WordPress.org profile. So the first thing we're going to check is if the applicant has been involved with WordPress. So this is Angela's profile. I'm going to check. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I have a snippet for that. Don't worry too much about it. So yeah, this is Angela's profile. I can see that Angela is an experienced community contributor, and she's had a profile since 2018. So she's very experienced. So that's a good thing. I can also see that she has several badges. She's been involved. She has a lot of activity in the profile. She's a WordCamp speaker. She's a WordCamp organizer. She's a member of the community team. So I'm going to mention that. So yeah, I'm going to keep the red flags as none because there are no red flags. So yeah, I'm going to update this field over here. Right. So it's a little difficult to edit spreadsheet. Okay, let me see if I can do that. This is tricky. Okay, no problem. I'm going to try and find a workaround. Okay, yeah. Okay, so wp.org profile. This is Angela's profile. Experienced community deputy. I should probably do word wrap on this. Okay, format, text wrapping. Yeah, it's already in wrap. Good. Experienced. Oh, there's a typo. Yeah, experienced community deputy. So yeah, that's a good thing. Profile from 2018, several badges. Yeah, so that's good. So I think it might make sense to probably write this somewhere else and copy it down here because like this is a little difficult. Anyway, let's see if there's a workaround for that. Okay, yeah. Anyway, just give me a moment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to type this elsewhere and I'm going to copy it. I think that's what makes sense, right? So let's take a look at the workshop. Angela has shared. So in this section, you can there's a section which says where can you find you online. So we request all applicants to share as many social media profiles as possible. So in this case, Angela has shared her blog and her Twitter profile. So let's quickly take a look at that. So Angela has some blog posts, which are good. She has a Twitter profile. There's nothing problematic. She's tweeted a lot about the community, which is very welcome. Amazing stuff. I mean, so that's all good. So again, there are no red flags. Yeah, sorry. Moving on, I'm just going to close these windows. Go on, Angela.
Can I jump in really quickly? I did this on purpose. It's a very common thing for applicants to not add links to all of their things. So
Yes.
sometimes you do have to go and like dig in further and look for other links. What's helpful, what I find helpful frequently is going to their personal site because it's pretty common to have multiple links to different social media on their personal websites. So that's one way to find them. The .org profile also has a lot of social media links as well. And sometimes just searching for them online and saying like WordPress after that is helpful as well.
Yeah, thank you for the excellent tips,
I've
Angela.
behaved well, so you don't have to go through all of them. But
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you for mentioning that, Angela. And that's again an important point which I want to reiterate. So we see this a lot actually in case of Learn WordPress applicants. They may not share all the information. So in such cases, again, the WordPress.org profile has a lot of links which you can use to search. So that can be very helpful. So please go through as many links as possible. Go through their social media profiles. See, like, so basically, we look at the WordPress code of conduct. Do they follow the WordPress code of conduct? So if you feel that they follow the WordPress code of conduct, it's good. We can have them. And again, look for things like their activity in the community and things like that. So there's a few more things that you can search for. Like you can search for the name. You can search for the name in Google, which can also yield a lot of results. And again, you can search in Help Scout. Help Scout is there's a Learn WordPress Help Scout. So that is only applicable to community deputies. So you can also search for the name in the Learn WordPress, sorry, in the Help Scout. So if which is something Angela mentioned. So if there's any activity, like if they've had any contact with the community team, this will help you find out that information, which can also be helpful for vetting. So that's that. Then let's look at, so this, as you can see, this section has not been populated in the application, the workshop description. So we can quickly go through that. So there's an incident response team training courses in which addresses in full how WordPress community contributors take and respond to the code of conduct reports. So one thing very different about this is a course. This is an application for a course. So typically we get applications for workshops, but this is a little unique in that sense, but that's okay because like Learn WordPress will have courses. So I think we'll get more applications for courses, but typically this is an application for a workshop. For the sake of this workshop, you'll probably need to ask Angela about what she plans to do the work, but she's made it very clear. She's explained that. So she's mentioned that there's going to be 4 workshops in this course. There's going to be a workshop on the introduction to the incident response team, overview of processes and expectations of the incident response team, taking incident reports and responding to incident reports, which is very clear. So we don't need to worry about that. And there's a brief workshop description, which also mentions that the incident response training course addresses in full how WordPress contributors take and respond to the code of conduct, which is also very clear. So we don't need to worry about that. Again, the learning objectives, which is the same thing that you will see over here. No, sorry, this is actually the learning outcomes. I think it's the same thing. Yeah, it's actually the same thing. So I think that's a naming confusion, but yeah, it's the same thing. So Angela's clearly mentioned the learning objectives, which is good. So we specifically asked for comprehension questions. Angela has explained that as well. So in short, this workshop is good to go. So why? Because Angela is a community deputy. She's worked with the community for a while. She's delivered several sessions. Again, one thing that we need to look for in workshop applications is to see whether this whether the applicant has been involved in has been essentially involved in meetups in the community or has experience doing videos, because these are video workshops that they're going to create. So I mean, sometimes it's very clear, like in Angela's case, I'm not going to search a lot because we all know Angela. So she's done a lot of videos. So I'm confident that she has experience creating video workshops. But in case of a general applicant, always always search to see if they have experience producing videos. So one example for that is you can see in WordPress.tv if the applicant has videos. So that's a good place to look at, or if they have experience producing any video courses. So when you do your search, you might find that sort of information. Again, in Angela's case, she's a WordCamp speaker, as I can see here, which clearly means that she's spoken at WordCamps. She's a WordCamp organizer too, which means that she has experience organizing events. So all this makes Angela an excellent candidate to do this workshop. Also, in this case, this is an incident response training team. Angela works with the community team, so we can approve this workshop. So based on all of these facts, I'm going to quickly add some vetting notes. Okay, Angela has experience organizing events and creating videos. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to add a conclusion section. For some reason, this application, this field is being weird. So quick tip, if you're using a spreadsheet, to enter your wedding notes, maybe type your notes elsewhere and copy paste because the spreadsheet doesn't take it really well, as I just learned the hard way. Anyway, so conclusions, application approved. So sorry.
And I'll also
Angela, go ahead.
add while Hari's typing in his notes, I'll also add, like, it's never a bad thing to reach out to the applicant and ask them for more information. Like, if you didn't know me, you might be like, why is this Angela person wanting to submit a workshop about responding to instant reports? Like, what do they know about that? Because even if I'm a community deputy, like, you don't know that I have experience doing this. So you might want to check in and see, like, hey, is this something you have knowledge about? Is this something you're comfortable talking about? Is this, et cetera, et cetera. So it's never a bad thing to reach out and ask those questions. And in fact, I think especially for, like, new people, hearing those questions might be helpful for them. Asking if they do want help with editing their video. It's a really good collaborative thing to do, I think.
Yeah, excellent. So thank you for elaborating on that, Angela. Angela's mentioned some excellent points. So in this case, this application is sort of an exception in that sense, because but typically what we do is we look, I mean, depending on the topic and depending on what the topic is submitted and depending on the applicant's experience, we don't always approve applications immediately. So we ask them, we try to learn more about their expertise. So for instance, if an applicant has submitted a workshop on how to create blogs, we try to reach out to them first to see if they know about it, like how they plan to do it. So in some cases, like so in case of this workshop, the workshop description and the learning objectives and the comprehension questions, they're all very clear. So it's very clear about how we can proceed. But in some cases, it's not so clear. So in such cases, we send an email to the applicant asking them for more information, like, oh, what do you want to do? So we have snippets on this in Help Scout. We can just use the particular snippet and send them an email, and they can provide us more information. And based on what they provide, we can proceed accordingly. So that is very important to note. So let's say, for example, if we did not have enough information, if this application was not very clear, then what we will do is we'll go through the application and we'll find out what is actually missing. So this is where the training team can really help. So maybe we can ask other subject matter experts. So an example that quoting an example that really happened, let's say we have a workshop that came in a particular language and we don't know how to proceed. So in that case, we can maybe reach out to the polyglots team and reach out to members of that community, ask them to vet the application. I mean, maybe not vet the application, but ask them more about this applicant, to see if they know the applicant and to find out more about it. Or let's say if this workshop is on a topic that you don't know a lot about, then you can probably invite a subject matter expert and ask them about it. So the training team has a public channel, and these applications are sensitive. So like it may not always help to, but you can always reach out to members in the training team and I have a sensitive question about an application. Can you help me out? So like, and then maybe you can start a DM or something like that. So that might also be helpful. But yeah, and again, in many cases, you may not know if you might want a second opinion. So in that case, you can invite another team member to take a look at this application to see if your vetting notes are right. So in this case, we don't need all of that because it's very straightforward. So I'm going to, as you can see, there's two sections that I have in this spreadsheet. One is speaker vetting. So this is my speaker vetting and this is a workshop vetting. So I'm going to keep my notes very short for the sake of this workshop. I don't want to take you all's time. And we're working with the community team. We can approve this workshop. So that's it. Workshop approved. Emailing Angela to share her workshop video. So quickly reminding you all of the process that Angela mentioned and Eric also mentioned. So the first step is we essentially the applicant has sent in an application and we vetted the application. So what we do here is we move this application to, there are a few custom post types for this application. Where's that? Yeah. So we move this to approve for video. In this case, this application is approved, so we move this to approved video. But in some cases, we need more information. If that's the case, we move this to more info requested. So that is the next step. And once we do that, once we choose whatever status, we update the post draft. So in this case, I've added my vetting notes here. So when the training team vets applications, there'll probably be a field here where you can add these notes instead of this clunky spreadsheet. So once that's done, move to the respective status and save the post as a draft. The next step is we need to contact the applicant. So for that, I'm going to fetch the email address. And I know some members of the training team already have access to the Learn WordPress Help Scout. So you need to send an email. So this is the Learn WordPress Help Scout. You can click on this new conversation button, which opens up a window like this. Just paste the email. So in this case, this is Angela's email. I'm going to use that. And so I'm going to add a subject, sorry for the caps, the Learn WordPress Workshop application. Angela, were you about to say something? I thought.
No, I was just laughing at how short my hair is in that photo of me there.
That's a very old photo. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, there's a bunch of saved replies in Help Scout, so which will really reduce your work. So let's take a look at some of these saved replies. So they are in multiple languages. So there's a lot of Spanish workshops that keep coming in, and I believe there's a few Japanese workshops as well. So we can choose the respective application. I mean, the respective snippet. So let's take a quick look at the English workshop. So there's oops, I lost that. Yeah. So yeah, this workshop submission approved, polyglots review. So yeah, so do you remember the case where I mentioned about when this application is in a different language, and when you need somebody from the polyglots team to review it, that's when you use this. So in some cases, like so again, there's a scenario that I didn't explain very well. So what if this application doesn't meet our criteria? So when does it not meet our criteria? So for instance, we don't find a lot of information on them, or maybe this topic does not make sense. Like they've written something on a non-WordPress topic, or if this is spam, maybe not necessarily spam, but they've shared something so there's a lot of criteria. Again, we have a handbook page on that. I won't go into the details because I think we've already sort of slightly exceeded the time. But again, if the person doesn't meet the GPL or trademark guidelines, again, that's also something that we need to look to, which Angela mentioned. I've not really looked into that because Angela obviously meets the GPL and trademark guidelines. And or if the topic doesn't meet our standards, or if there's already a workshop on that topic. Like there's several reasons why you can reject a workshop. So if this is one of those workshops that you need to reject, you can use workshop application declined. So again, there's a separate section on that. So in most of the cases, we might need to ask the applicant for more information. So if that's the case, we can choose this workshop. So actually, workshops need more information. So it typically populates some information. So the first option there is the username you provide for WordPress.org doesn't exist. So we can probably delete this because I mean, you need a valid WordPress.org profile if you need to send an application for Learn WordPress. So you can probably delete it. And again, the scenario Angela mentioned about whether in some cases people don't share their social media profiles. That happens a lot. I mean, I would say in my experience vetting workshops that most of the applications we've received, people have only sent like 1 or 2 of their profiles. So we might need more information on their social profiles. So like that's why we have this section. I'll just quickly walk you through the other sections. There's there's the polyglots review, which I spoke about. Then this need more information, application declined. So in this case, we are going to use the workshop submission approved. So yeah, this is very straightforward. Again, so what we ask the applicant to do is, again, going back to the steps. So somebody sends an application and we ask them to record a video, and then we ask them to upload this to WordPress.tv. Once the video is approved, we take a look at the video and we see if it's all okay, if it meets our guidelines. Then we add the video to the workshop and we publish it. So that is the workflow in short. So the next step is we send this email and Angela records a video, or in this case, it's a course. Again, this is a unique case scenario because this is an application for a course, not an individual workshop. So Angela has to record these 4 videos and she'll submit that. And once she's done it, she'll respond to us. And then, so for courses, especially even for workshops, you need to add quizzes. You need to add basically some content and quizzes. So we need to get those quiz questions from Angela, and we need to add that. I won't go into the details because this is a vetting section. We'll probably need a separate walkthrough session on that. But yes, we can link those quiz questions and quiz questions to workshop. So if you look at Learn WordPress workshops, many of them already have some quizzes. And once all of that is linked, and if there are captions, we need to get that. And this is something new. We're trying to add transcripts of all workshops to lessons so that people can actually read through it in case they don't have the time to watch workshops. So this is something new that we have on Learn WordPress. So once we get all that, we publish the workshop and it gets published on Learn WordPress. All right, so I'm going to send this email, and that officially completes the vetting process. So Angela, congratulations, your workshop submission has been approved. All right, folks, I know that was kind of fast and kind of short. There's a lot more things that we need to cover, but we've already sort of surpassed our time by 10 more minutes. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. So Erica, Angela, and I, we are happy to answer all the questions. Go ahead.
Hi. So what happens if I find someone has enough online activities and enough expertise on that specific topic, but they don't have video in YouTube or WordPress.tv or anywhere? What happens then?
Okay, I'll try answering this, but before that, Erica and Angela, do you want to probably add something to this? Because I know that you folks have also vetted enough workshops.
I'd also invite the training team reps
Yes.
to respond as well. I'm curious how you want to,
Yeah.
because that's a great question.
That's an excellent question, by the way. Yeah.
One of the thoughts that I had was if they are able to work with us first on making the lesson plan, because a lesson plan outlines really what the content is that should be delivered. And so if we know that they have created a lesson plan states, again, objectives, maybe some questions that we see, but we dig into a few more pieces. What prerequisites should people have? What resources should they already be familiar with? If this was a lesson about building out a theme, maybe they need to know that they should install WordPress and have the theme unit test data or something to that effect. So if they have this lesson plan done, then the walkthrough of the lesson plan, it's similar to an outline, but it would be the guidelines for what somebody should have for the workshop video. And in fact, we're hoping in the future to sort of merge the content of lesson plans with like courses videos a little bit more. So if they have all of those guidelines followed and they've helped create the lesson plan, then just recording the video, of course, we're going to see the video before it airs. So I think that from that perspective, that would maybe give us a little more assurance on how folks are doing it. And again, this is for maybe standalone content that is not facilitating the group discussions. As we get to know people more, then we can consider what the group discussion piece could look like as well. So there are so many areas and ways that we can help people through training. We like helping people. But I would love eventually to have everything have a, this is me speaking, not team. I would love to have a lesson plan first, because that is the walkthrough that goes into the video. And then that video, places that do formalized training often create a script ahead of time. And so the lesson plan is the on-ramp to kind of an outline, a walkthrough, a script. And so we know what content to anticipate before we have that at a final stage.
Yeah, I'd second that as well.
So is that happen that we approve a video and approve a submission, and then when they submit the video, we find it's not appropriate, so we ask them for reshoot or something? What happens then?
Well, I'm going to answer first, but please feel free to add to what I'm saying, Angela, Erica, and members of the training team. So we've not, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've not rejected a video so far. But yes, short answer to your question, yes. Okay. So we look for a video to have some basic standards. And if it does not meet those standards, we'll send an email politely asking the applicant to reshoot the video so that it meets our standards. And once they resubmit it, once we see if it's
Improve the
all okay.
content, maybe.
Yes. Once it meets the standards. So like we sort of get a feel of the application. So if you, in case of Angela's application, it was very structured. Like she very clearly mentioned what she intends to do, what the learning objectives are. So at that stage itself, we can almost always understand that the applicant is very serious. Again, going by Courtney's suggestion, like if they have a lesson plan, like that really means that they put in a lot of work on this. So I mean, we can sort of guess that they've done a lot of good work, but in case we don't have a lesson plan and if they submit it and if it does not meet the guidelines, we can send a polite email asking them, please reshoot the video. I mean, we can also highlight the sections that need improvement. Also, maybe something that we can include in future, we can ask subject matter experts to review the video. Like for instance, if again, going back to the blocks example, like we can maybe ask somebody to watch the video to see if there's anything that needs to be improved. If that's the case, we can ask them, we can send them, we can ask them, okay, we noticed these and this issue, so maybe can you correct it and send it to us. So most applicants are very polite. They're very happy to make these changes, and they will make the necessary changes and submit it to us, and then we'll review it and we'll approve it, and then we'll publish it in the site. So do you have anything else to add, Angela, Erica, Courtney?
Yeah, I'll add on a little bit there. I get that it's hard to ask somebody to like reshoot and re-edit a video. I do liken it to if we have a speaker at a WordCamp where we do record all of our videos and we try to get them onto WPTV. If a speaker like swears or does something inappropriate during their talk, we're not going to put it on WPTV. And so I kind of liken it to this as well. Like if something doesn't go as expected, we can't put it on our official we can't put it on Learn WordPress. And so inviting people along the way to say like, hey, if you have questions about what to include, come talk to us, let us help, let us work with you as you're creating it. I think that will probably lead to better results longer term than saying, hey, okay, you're on your own, go for it, just check in when you're done. I think that's, yeah. So we'll just keep working with each other.
Keep in mind too, Learn is relatively young in terms of being a live area within .org. And we've got a couple of teams converging together to make this thing really amazing and powerful, but we're still getting ourselves organized in how we all coordinate together. And today is one of those initiatives. A lot of the work that goes into Learn sources from the training team wrangling the content, I would say. So as we continue to evolve, we'll work on streamlining maybe our efforts a little bit too through that process, which is really good. But I think Hawa, you had an idea in there too.
I was just thinking that's a really good course. So have a course on how to actually do a workshop, because then that would sort of, it would reduce the number of, I don't want to say rejections, but it would probably reduce the number of times you'd have to ask somebody to make a change. Because if we've already got some sort of course that exists, and I know we've been talking about this, and we have been looking at it in different areas, just a simple how to, so somebody could come up with the workshop on how to do workshop.
There is a workshop about how to make a lesson plan that I saw in the queue while you were all showing that on the screen, so I'm looking forward to that one because it's and kind of already recorded. The entire approach of it, we would call it dog fooding, eating our own, like practicing and using the thing that we're doing. I think training and community as it relates to what goes into Learn, the sooner we can develop courses out of that process, I think it's going to help. And then also systematizing how we work with some of the other teams so that as folks are joining support. We had an inquiry come in recently on a workshop related to beginning to answer support threads, not even handling higher level issues. Just I'm going to go into all of the forums and start answering some issues that are there. Systematizing how we coordinate with other teams as well. And so there's a lot that we could do with Learn, benefiting how the contribution on ramp to all the teams, benefiting how to use the software, how to contribute at a level. We have core shipping release candidate 1 today. All the avenues inside of that, there's a lot that I'm excited about with it. We need help. So bring all your friends.
Did you say that there's a lesson plan being worked on currently, or is it available now for doing lesson plans?
We have a video that I created for WordCamp EU about the high level picture of how a lesson plan comes together. And when I created it, Abba said, hey, make sure that you do this in a way that if you would like to repurpose it on Learn, it can be done. And I said, sure, that's smart. So there is a video workshop about the high level picture of a lesson plan. And one of the things I want to get together soon is if we made a whole course. So right now on Learn, we have lesson plans, we have workshops, and an extension of those workshops are discussion groups. We are beginning into having courses, and a course would be a series of often video delivery, but not exclusively. And so what I would like to see happen out of training team is that we've got a lesson plan about how to make a lesson plan. We've got a video workshop about how to make a lesson plan, the high level overview. Then follow that along for all of the steps in the process to getting that lesson plan published. And then we know when somebody has passed that and they've done the thing, they're pretty good to go on volunteering. We know that they understand. So basically it's lifting things that have lived in our handbook into a way that we could track. Did people pay attention to it? And are they aware? And getting that maybe translated better so that we've got more global contribution.
Okay, thank you. Because I was just reviewing I'm still struggling to do I have a lesson plan right now that's been approved for migrating to Gutenberg Builder. And I'm just kind of going, okay, you know what I mean? So, because that, I don't like to do stuff and then have to redo it. And so it's easy for me to just, pull back and say, well, I'm just going to wait until I understand how to do it. And now that's not how it works. I need to just jump in there and start doing it. But I think this would be helpful. Thank you.
Just reading out a comment from Courtney. We need more meta team content as well. So that makes it all very, very meta. All right, folks. So do you have any more questions? Yeah. Any more questions?
Thank you for facilitating this.
Thanks for joining us. All right, can we call this one done?
We can. I have the recording here. Before I close the meeting, I am going to save our chat because we had some really good links shared in there. But I will stop recording now and thank all of you for being here and wave goodbye to whoever sees this in the future.